Welcome to another episode of Driving to the Res
with your favorite hosts,
Inelia.
We rehearsed this in our heads before we started.
Oh, we did? Okay.
Start again.
Okay.
It'll be the end. With your favorite hosts,
Inelia and Clary.
Yeah, that's how it went in my head.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, that's apropos of our topic.
It's a very apropos of our topic.
Apropos of our topic.
It is very apropos.
Apropos. Our topic's connection. That's what we're thinking about talking about.
Yes, connection.
So we're having a connection in our heads, except for I forgot to share it.
That's one of the interesting aspects of connection.
Is it?
Yeah, because connection goes both ways.
Right.
And if one side is not connected, there is actually no connection, even if there's a full intent of connection.
So you have to have the transmit and the receive.
Yes.
And the agreement on both ends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, one of the, I think more listenable and interesting listenable stories about connection probably is related to yesterday or a day, but I'm pretty sure it was yesterday. We were looking at some land.
Yes.
And we want to walk the perimeter, or how do you call it?
Yeah, we're walking the perimeter.
Walking the perimeter of the land. We went right through the middle and then we walked the edges.
Yes.
And intention is connection with the land, right? Connection with that land.
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Well, in yesterday's...
Well, we had more reasons.
Yes,
I'm not spilling the whole beans.
Oh, okay.
Just the start beans of the land. We want to go because reverse, rewind.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you own land, your power increases.
Yes.
Okay. So that's no. When you go to look at land, does all land improve or increase your power? Or does some land deplete it? In other words, is all land agreeable or is some land less agreeable?
I would say the second. Some land is disagreeable.
Less agreeable with maybe the purpose you have intended.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like a desert place that might love being warm and sandy, and it doesn't like the idea of growing a greenhouse with a bunch of water getting squirted up all over it. It's like, So it would be less supportive of that. So the purpose of making the connection is to see if the land is agreeable to the intention you might have for it. Yeah. And you're agreeable to the intention the land has.
Right.
Like two-way communication, right?
Yes.
So the process we use is to walk the perimeter and go right to the middle of it is also.
Yeah, the edges, the corners if you can.
Edges and the corners that you can reach. So we did that yesterday, and what was your impression of the land itself, the connection? Can you describe it a little bit?
To me, the land felt it felt magical. It felt like a place that was still hosting very ancient beings. It was like hiding also.
Yeah, totally, huh?
Yeah, it was hiding.
Hiding in plain sight type.
Yes, it is in plain sight. It's by the road, right? But it felt like it was hiding. And there was like a willingness to host humans.
Interesting. I just got the little data. It was hiding from emo because it didn't want to be a field.
That makes sense. Yeah.
No cows. No cows. No cows.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and he was very prolific and very energetic and very impressionable he made a very big impression on the land that he held.
Yes.
And he
it was a farmer that lived down the street. He was in his 90s when we moved in.
Yeah.
And
he was still mowing the fields in our our neighborhood.
Yep.
I mean, giant
Cutting
fields of hay with a
trees
1940s tractor and a 1930s hay mower.
Right.
And he'd have a wrench sticking out of his pocket and bailing while holding his tractor together, and didn't slow him down a bit. And he wasn't, I don't think he was even getting paid for the mowing of it. He just said, well, I don't want to see the fields turn into blackberries.
Yeah. That's right.
It was quite a powerful being.
He was very powerful, yeah.
He had a lot of land too.
Yeah, and he was only small. I mean, he was only just about 5'4" or 5, something like that.
And this land actually is bordering his land.
It is.
So
the one we were looking at, yeah.
Right. So it is interesting, that message of, being hiding in plain sight because of its location and proximity to all these cow fields and hay fields and horse fields. Anyway, I digress. So those are the informations you got from the land, that it was interested in hosting and it was hiding in plain sight.
Yep.
Kind of okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
There was also a little bit of information about what was there right now.
How did you receive the information too?
What?
Can you describe also how you received the information? I'm kind of hoping that the connection and the data and the interpretations of the data and the process, like how is this experienced, is something that you would share too.
Yeah, so you can map, and anybody can map to it.
Yeah,
right?
so people can map to it and mimic it, or copy it, or also do it, or bring their own perspective to it.
Yeah, so the way that I connect is just it feels like opening up my awareness to the land or the object. And of course, there's the knowing that there's intelligence and sentiency in everything on the planet already. That I don't have to convince myself about that. And it's not like I believe it. It's like I know it.
Right.
Because of all the experiences I've had in the past in my life that were based on that originally anyways. Right? So I know there's that sentiency, and it's like opening up, but also it's like meeting a new friend or a new person. The very first time we walked into the land is like a complete unknown, right? And obviously I felt energy, so like I felt welcomed. I felt like the land wanted to show off its magic and its ancient beings. It felt that way. And before all the human programs kicked in about what's there right now and what people have done to it and everything else, before anything of that kicked in, and we'll talk about interpretation in a bit.
Okay.
It felt like I just stepped into a magical kingdom, like an elf land or something.
Yeah,
that's how it felt.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, wow, how is this right here, 1 mile away from us? How
it's just 1 mile down the road.
What's going on? It's like, how did I never feel this or see it or perceive it or anything? Yeah. So the first impressions were very welcoming, very sentient, ancient, full of wisdom, and welcoming, like just welcoming and happy that we were there. It was happy we were there.
Right. I experienced that same sense of magic. The very first thing was a welcome. There was a welcome. Like this was a welcome. Not ancient, but not small. Like a very present, modern feeling cedar tree, right? To me, it felt like a modern, like I'm not here for 1,000 years. I'm here for 100 or 2. I'm at the drive. I've been waiting since I was born, not too long, for you to show up. It's like, here, I see you. Come here. So it's like, I'm not, you know what I'm getting at? It's like, I'm for this paradigm. I'm here and I'm waiting, and I've been waiting, but not forever. I'm just waiting. And you're welcome. Really love that tree. And then a few more steps, there's the 1,000-year-old giant fir going, yeah, I've been here forever. And I have a lot of memory.
Yes.
And I would be open to sharing it. But, who are you? Kind of like what is your energy? It was like a slow introduction and a slow opening. It wasn't like, bang, here you go, you can have it. It was
no, I haven't received that either.
Yeah, that's not what my impression was. It was a
like
process of a month.
Yeah.
Hello,
like,
who are you?
Who are you? And let's get to know each other.
It's like, I see you, you see me. It's kind of that connection of, see, I'm here.
Yeah.
Kind of like that. It was pretty cool.
Right. And like an acknowledgement of each other's existence more.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And that introduction, I mean, that's only 10 steps in.
Yes.
That introduction pretty much encompassed the gatekeepers in a way, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm the gatekeeper, and I'm not the trainee gatekeeper, but I'm the modern one. It's like got both paradigms, not both paradigms, but both.
The toddler.
Like millennial and whatever the 20s are, gold, baby boomer. Here's the boomers, here's the millennial. It was kind of interesting. Both were represented and present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, we haven't actually decided whether we're going to make this part of a project yet. But it's like, it's interesting. It's a very interesting discovery.
Right. And so we don't jump too far ahead and too far back on that. I'll try and keep it into the very first part, which is the connection. The two-way communication. I'm open to being communicated to, and I am communicating to you also. I'm open. And then as we walked, we found there were multiple perimeters.
Yes.
It isn't like a simple square of some kind. It was
it's
differently
like an L
shaped.
shape. Yeah.
Or like a square with a square with a square cut out of it.
Like an L.
Like an L. Yeah, that would be an L.
Yes, that would be an L.
Yeah, so shaped like an L with a triangle on the end.
Yeah.
So we walked right through to the middle, and we kind of got to the human part. And we didn't make it to the borders. We only made it to the middle part.
Well,
because it was our first little jaunt in, our first little set of what is here and who is this?
Right.
It's like, hi, I'm Larry, and oh, hi, I'm
Land.
It's like, hey, it's nice to meet you. What is here? Curious. And then you see over here is this old van. See over here is this old boat. See over here this building. See, it's I'm claiming it back. And see all these trees and all this lumber, and here's some machineries. And there's a road, but it's full of mud. We don't do cars here right now. That kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very interesting because obviously part of communication is when you receive data, so it's like an opening like that, right? And then you start getting your 5 senses data, like the sight, the hearing, and all these type of things, feeling, smells. And what I found was then my social programs kicked in.
Oh yeah.
And there were things like that, oh my gosh, there's a lot of work. Yeah. We would need to clean the driveway. The mud is like 5 inches of mud from forest mud, like forest created top.
Yep.
On top of the gravel.
Leaf after leaf after leaf after leaf, a little bit of dust from the wind.
And the human previous habitation that's still left over there, I'm thinking that at the time it might have been pretty cool, but what's left is not that cool, like an abandoned minivan that's full of weeds and mold and stuff, and a ton of abandoned boats, again, full of grass growing on them.
That one boat had moss this like 2 inches thick over the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the cover over the engine, and it reminded me of a Project Vice Grip garage guy would want to show up to do.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, let me get this started.
Yeah. And the buildings, there was a collapsed trailer.
It wasn't even recognizable as a trailer until I stood on it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's a trailer.
Yeah, because, we saw the hitch.
Yeah.
And there's like a big shed workshop thing that's collapsing as well. And there's trees growing in it. And there's a allegedly called cabin or house. I think they
Need
called
some
it a
elbow
house.
grease
With elbow grease. No, the house is leaning sideways and one
at
whole
45 degrees.
Yeah, one of the walls is completely collapsed and some of the roof too. No, I don't think so. I don't think that's a house. So there was a lot of kind of negative feelings around the human constructed things for me.
Right, the human
But that
holder of
wasn't
it and the
the
human
land.
leftover of it,
Yes,
right?
the leftover. There was piles and piles of like a whole mountain of metal windows or doors or something that rusted it together. And all sorts of things like that. So then, that part of the communication kicks in, and I start thinking, oh, well, if we got this, then we're going to have to spend how much to get like trucks or people to come in and grab all this out of here, pull all these vehicles out, those boats, and those houses, those buildings probably need demolished. I mean, there might be a chance that the workshop might be salvageable, but the so-called house, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of, other energies came in. When those energies come in, then the connection to the land itself for a while stopped for me.
Totally.
Right. So I was like, not so magical.
The magic has vanished. And that's interesting because the connection shifted. We were connected with land.
It was magical.
Land. And then the connection was shifted to
the human construct.
Human construct that wasn't any more alive. It was like a decay.
Yes, it was
decayed. That decay connection that's decayed, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And for the, outside of judgment, of course, if you just wait another 100 years or so, there's nothing there.
Right.
Literally, you would need archaeologists and I don't know what to dig through it, and you might say, oh, look, at one time they had a workshop here and they used to make these little arrowheads with these stone chips. See all these chips? It would be like that.
Yeah.
Maybe not 100 years, maybe only 50, but
yeah.
If you want to use it tomorrow, then you have to clean up all the stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the connection was shifted. Mm-hmm. I think that's important to notice how it can shift.
Yeah.
We were connected to one thing and then we connected to another thing.
Yeah.
And in that sense, was there a two-way communication connection with the human stuff? Or was there a one-way connection? Was there data both ways in that connection, do you think?
Some of the stuff, I'm talking about the workshop again, because it felt like the workshop felt happy that there were people there, and it felt like, oh, we're going back to work.
Come on.
Yeah.
I felt the same too.
Yeah, it did. It was enthusiastic. It was like
start the fire, let's dry out a little bit.
Yeah, let's do the machines. And
let's turn on our electricity. We need lights. We need power.
Yes, conversations and music and let's get this party going, right?
Yeah, well, I'm ready.
I'm ready. So for that one, I did feel that. With the house, I felt a very kind of barely conscious energy, very tired energy, like I'm done kind of energy. Even when I looked at the little greenhouse connected, the sunroom.
Yep.
And I felt, I love sunrooms, and even like half demolished, really old, and have rotted sunroom.
Still
generates
attraction.
Yeah, still generates how beautiful to me. But even then it was like, no,
I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, it was cool. But and not in a sad way either. It was more like the energies dissipating into the environment type thing.
Yeah, I'm not a generational house. I was a shelter for this human, and that human is gone and I'm too.
Yeah, that
it's
type
I
of
am
energy.
him and he is gone, I am gone.
Yeah.
I don't want to raise a family.
Right. Yeah.
That's interesting, that communication. I had the same feeling too. The workshop was, please, yes, please. And the house was, don't look at me, don't look at me.
I'm gone, just demolish me, just go away. Yeah.
So we did come back for a second visit, because the first visit had a lot of introductions and a lot of understandings, and after we had done that and we understood the lands communication, of its magicness, of its hostiness, feeling, of its I'm ready to do it again. I'm ready to start.
Yeah.
And the other part, which was further back in the land, is like, hey, just let me go. So it's like a large portion of it wants to be leave it be, and then some portion of it's actually the portion right by the road says, yeah, you guys turn the lights on, let's go.
Yeah.
I'm good, I'm ready.
Yeah.
So that attached to what possible why would we have for being interested in this land came to be, right? Like what can and how, which way would this land, which way would we
be mutually
function
supportive
with this land?
Yeah.
Why would we want this?
Yeah.
Why would we want to be there? The things that the land's interested in, is there something that we're interested in that's also the same?
Right.
Like
would
where's
it be mutually
our
supportive?
mutual agreement, right? Because at first, all it really takes is a sign for sale. It's like, ooh, let me look.
We've seen other signs for sale. We didn't look.
We looked.
Like up the
like
road,
down the road, up down the street, we looked. We stopped. We looked out the door and said, no.
Yeah.
There is nothing mutual here.
Oh, I see what you mean by look. I thought you meant look, get into the land and stuff.
Right.
Right. No. Up the road, there was another for sale sign. We stopped the car. We did. We looked at the land and we said no.
Like at the front of the Hosette Road too.
Yeah.
We looked at that, and every time we drove by, it just kept on saying, "Come look at me, come look at me, come look at me," right? And so eventually, I did stop and I went with a couple people. Yeah. And we walked the land, and the land that surrounded it was the land that was shining, and the one that was for sale was like, I was tricking you. Somebody, please. I really want somebody, please. Yeah. Anyway, it's interesting the communications that we get, right? And how we get them and how we interpret them too. Yeah. So we did go back with another intention, and the intention had to do with facilitating another connection with I'm going to call it non-human, because, we have to define human, and we have a definition of human.
Yeah, a human is a physical body elemental and a soul, right? Connected is a symbiotic relationship that makes a human.
Right, and
with a humanoid form.
Yeah, that's how we'll recognize it. A not human means they either are not a physical body with a soul, or they're not a soul with a body. Right. They're a different thing.
Yeah.
So what would you call a human body that hasn't got a symbiotic soul connection with it?
I would call it the physical body elemental.
So Sasquatch would be a physical body elemental.
Yes.
That rolls off the tongue.
Let's just call them Sasquatch.
Let's call them Squatchy.
Squatches.
So there's humans and there's Squatches, and there is a difference, and the difference is the soul. And the legend that we heard was that when the aliens came from the sky to give...
Don't forget it was the gods at the time.
When the gods came from the sky, not aliens, I'm sorry.
From the stars.
When the gods, you say it, I've got it all wrong. When the gods came from the stars to give humans their souls, the Sasquatch tribes said no, and they went and hid.
Yes.
So humans got souls.
No, it was like, it wasn't the Sasquatch tribes at the time. It's like some tribes said no. And they stayed away from the
gods,
the place where they were getting their souls, right?
Place where the soul things was going on.
Yeah, and then
the
people with souls changed, and they started calling the other tribes that didn't get their souls Sasquatch, or with the name it is around here.
Yeah. Right. So Sasquatches are, in a sense, the human body elemental's original form before being modified to accept a cohabitation of a soul. And a soul is another body elemental that doesn't have a physical...
It's not very dense.
Density, right?
Yeah, it does have a density, but it's not very dense.
So if it were to fiddle around on the planet, it would have a hard time interacting with the planet, connecting with the planet, because it doesn't have the density to connect. In other words, you can't pick up the water, you can't drink the water.
No.
Because there's no further water to stay. And you can't put your lips to it.
Right.
So to have that soul, for the soul to have the physical experience, it needed a body to
host it.
Yeah. But not everybody wanted one of those.
No, not everybody wanted. That's all here.
So in an original form, if you think about it, it makes logical sense, right? In an original form, a human body elemental should be able to survive on this planet without any
clothes,
shelter, without any shelter, without
houses, heating, cooling, hats,
stoves,
sun cream,
sunscreen,
stoves, tools,
boots, cars, airplanes.
Tools,
Think about it. They don't need any of that, and they exist in just fine.
Yep.
We need that because we are modified.
Yes.
And the modification makes us less suited for, living without coats, hats, hair, whatever. Because the modification changes us.
Yeah, it did.
We have a different experience. It's not better, it's not worser. It's different.
It is different, yeah.
But of course that created a little bit of separation between us and the tribes who didn't get souls, because clearly if they don't want souls and we all got them, how do you get them? How do you describe it or explain it to a dog or a cat or a dolphin or something,
Explain what?
Souls, and how you get them and how you don't get them. Remember, they don't want to be around humans too much because they don't want to catch a soul.
Oh, the Sasquatch, yeah. Yeah.
So you can explain it away all you want, but they've existed for a very long time with the knowledge that it's best just not to associate too much.
Yeah.
Because souls make people act differently.
Yeah, but also I think that when Earth decided to have a light-dark experience with the humans and other creatures, the Sasquatch, it feels like the Sasquatch, let's say, put their responsibility for that or the blame for that on the soul part of the human.
Right.
So souls are very dangerous because they make you do stupid things, type of thing.
Right.
Because for them, a light-dark paradigm is a stupid thing.
It's a very bad idea.
Very bad idea, and only a soul would convince you to do that.
Yeah, so don't talk to them too long because you'll get convinced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of, persistence to hold the Sasquatches in their state. Mm-hmm. And those are traditions, probably family connections, historical connections, tribal affiliation, a whole bunch of things, right? Mm-hmm. To hold them where they are. And they aren't necessarily true or rational from our perspective, but from their perspective, they are true and rational enough to continue the existence they have.
Yeah.
And it preserved it, which was probably its purpose, right?
Yeah.
So what we considered was having the land host a connection. And would it be interested in that connection? And it said clearly, I'm interested in hosting connection. With who?
Right.
Or with who was the Sasquatches in the area? Are you interested in having a connection with certain people?
Right.
Of a certain frequency?
Well, we started with, would you be interested in having a location where you and people that have souls can connect? And they said, what people?
Right.
Not all people. And we said, well, how about, let's say, awakened, high frequency people who are not here to find out if you're real, right?
Right.
And like the communication went back and forth of like defining that person.
Right.
So I'm not sure what was my ideas or what was their data.
Right.
But it was like they already have the ability to have experiential telepathy with them. Either with them as a species or they already have the ability, experiential telepathy.
The people they're interested in connecting with?
Yes.
Yeah.
They don't want people who are there to prove to themselves that a Sasquatch exists. They're done with that. They don't want anybody there who wants to prove it to the world. So they don't want cameras or phones, right? Anything that would either pollute their connection but also show their location.
Their intent is different.
Yeah. Their location, or that they're going to post it on their Instagram or whatever, right?
Right.
They don't want that. They're not interested in that. And I haven't asked the why, But I think it's street smart, so every time I look at it, it feels very street smart to not do that. Don't do that. Right? And I know that, personally speaking, at the Shaman Shack, we did have some very, very close encounters. I mean, we saw Sasquatch 3 times, physically saw them.
Yeah.
And
of course, when I was in the shower.
Yes, when you were in the shower,
an outdoor
outside.
shower.
Yeah. You heard them. I
heard
saw
them. And I was like, what the heck is that?
Yeah. And you came running out of the shower in your birthday suit.
Yeah.
In your birthday suit. Yeah, so it's like, I saw the Sasquatch, right? I could hear it, obviously, but I saw it. And you heard it, and the dogs ran after it and then came running back out again.
Yeah, it's like, oh, no, don't chase that.
Yeah. And the other times was one of them looking through the window at me while I was watching television. That was fun.
Yeah, that was like, looked like Romeo's face.
It did. It must have been a really young one. And so we've had that type of connection until I took out my cell phone and started recording.
Oh, by the way, Romeo is our
dog,
Portuguese water dog, and he can't see out of his eyes unless you cut his hair real good, because his whole face is one big shaggy lump of fur.
Yes. Yeah. So once I took out my phone and started recording, that connection, the physical evidence, like the sounds, the voices, the physical views, it all finished. And it was very clear, like, don't record us, right?
But it's almost irresistible, huh?
I know, it's so irresistible.
Because we connect with everyone else by sharing our phone.
That's the thing, is the sharing of the photographs that we do, or the voices or sounds. You know, for ourselves, you know, we might want to take a photo for ourselves, but we don't actually need that. Once you see it, you see it. I mean, there's no denying it. So that's a type of agreement, really. And then for the purpose of what? Right? What is the purpose behind that connection? And to me, it's an expansion of awareness and a reconnection, because throughout the ages and throughout human collective having played with the light-dark paradigm, the Sasquatch have made attempts at staying connected. I mean, even in near Bay, there was a sight, one walking down the street, and under a bridge, and on a bridge, and, you know, going into people's smokehouses and actually physically having a meeting, you know. But also the energetic or the experiential telepathy connection that they have tried to keep has also been done by taking young women, like childbearing women, throughout the years, and then the ladies come back and they have babies, and the babies are very, very ugly, right? Very ugly babies. And there's a couple of families in near Bay that they look like Sasquatch. Like, when I say, you know, it's like there was this man. I was sitting in the car, in the truck. You'd gone somewhere. Yeah. And I was looking at my phone, or I was in a call or something. That's why I couldn't go with you. And then I look up and I see a Sasquatch walking past me wearing clothes. And I go, oh, what? What? Clothes? What? And then he turns around and he's one of the guys, you know, that I've seen lots of times, you know, buggers.
You just saw his ancestry.
Yeah, but it's the walk and the height and the gaits and the length of the arms. Yeah. It was just obvious.
And he's not super ugly, by the way. When we say ugly baby, it's like different.
No, he's ugly.
Okay.
He's ugly. Sorry, honey.
I think he's a fine-looking fellow.
Well, he's very strong.
Very strong
jaws.
Very deliberate and very big jawed and very
like
large
he hasn't,
brow,
and he doesn't have a neck. It's like his shoulders and his head go straight on there. Yeah. His head goes straight into his shoulders.
Okay.
So he's
we
different.
have a different. Yeah, okay, we'll use different.
Okay, let's use different.
I prefer to avoid the trigger words.
Yeah,
if at all possible.
I suppose, because ugly human, but very beautiful Sasquatch. Right?
Yeah, like, geez. Like, you're
beautiful.
the prettiest Sasquatch I ever seen. Probably, yeah.
So, And I have had some contact. It wasn't physical. There was a situation, I spoke about it before, when I woke up in the middle of the night hearing noises in the kitchen. Remember that one?
Yes.
Anyway, I'm going to tell it again, I guess.
Yes, you should.
So I woke up in the middle of the night and Larry was still sleeping and I heard noises in the kitchen. So I got up and I went into the kitchen and there were 3 adult Sasquatches in the kitchen, all bent down because they couldn't fit in. Well, actually, let me just... and there was a little child Sasquatch on the chair, on the sofa, laying down. And I have to say, there was an adult male that was looking at me, facing the bedroom door. And as I came out, he growled really loudly, and he was really hunched over. He was so big, he had to hunch over to fit into the room. And he growled like really angry at me, right? Very, very angry at me.
Right.
And I looked at him and I said, I understand that something's going on and that you're very upset. Let's see what this is about and what we can do about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was this older Sasquatch, and that's the one I want to concentrate on for a bit. But let me finish the story first.
All right.
There was an older Sasquatch who had lighter fur, and she had things stuck on her fur, like little feathers and little stones and things and braids. And she was actually carrying a pouch. And that to me surprised me.
Right.
To me, what came to me is wisdom keeper shaman, right?
Sure.
That's what the words that came into me. And then there was a female Sasquatch, and she was very, very upset, holding this baby Sasquatch, or very young Sasquatch that was laying on the sofa. And the wisdom keeper one quieted the male one down, right? Like, okay, we came here for help, kind of thing,
right?
Or for data, or something like that. Like experiential telepathy, hasn't got
words, right? It's a sense of.
Like, yeah. So I said, "Why? Okay." So I just bypassed the male, who was still very angry, and I went towards the women and the baby, and they showed to me that the baby was very, very sick, and it was nothing that they knew. It wasn't something they knew. And I looked at the baby and I touched its kind of face and nose, and it was boiling. And I felt it was some sort of like flu type thing. And the first thing I thought was vitamin C. So I thought, we need to give the baby vitamin C, lots and lots of it. And I actually said it in word, vitamin C, and the wisdom keeper was like, what are you saying, right? So I went to the cabinet, the medicine cabinet, and I was looking for the vitamin C, and I thought, wait, that's not good.
They're not good.
They're not good. This is not, it's not going to help. And how is that baby going to eat it anyways? It's impossible. So I went back to her, and I showed her, rose hips. Mm-hmm. Sorry?
Yeah, rose hips.
Yeah, I showed her rose hips, and I felt into the flavor, that kind of tangy flavor of the vitamin C, and then I felt that going into the baby's body, right? Mm-hmm. And I said lots and lots. Like, I showed her lots and lots of it, and she looked at me for a little while, and then she went, oh, recognition. Yes, I know what that is. And I said, lots and lots. She said, yes. And then she showed me other things that had it in the area, like the bruise tips and the little, the ferns, the parts of the fern. There's parts of the fern that have it. And there's a lot of other berries that have it. And some...
there's some sour something.
Yeah, and there's some things that grow like the root part of something.
Yeah. And
she was showing me all these other things. I was saying, yes, yes. I was tapping into those things that she was showing me. I said, yes, yes, yes. And I kept saying lots and lots. So she immediately sent out that that's what they needed. And she said, how did the humans give him this kind of thing, right?
Right.
And when I felt into it, it felt like he'd been hanging out at a 5G tower too long in the area.
He got a little
Destructured. Yeah.
unstructured.
Yeah.
Because they're putting the towers up like look like trees in the woods. Probably they were strange looking to a young kid.
Yeah.
It's like, what kind of tree is
maybe
this?
Climbed it or whatever.
Climb this tree and check it out. Yeah.
I said, so stay away from those. Stay away from any towers. And I showed her what they felt like. Because when I go near one of those fire towers, I feel it. I feel it in my body. And she understood that, and they left. And then every day, and then they left, right? And I went back to bed, and you were still in bed, and I got back into bed and went to sleep. And the next day I wondered, were they really there? Physically, were they there? Mm-hmm. Was it an astral thing? I couldn't, It's
hard to place it in real here now.
Yeah, hard to place it, but it was so freaking real. But obviously, I always dismiss everything, right? If I can't back it up, right? So I went outside into the kitchen, and then I saw that the front door was wide open. And it was like, oh, okay, But I was looking in the kitchen to see if I could see evidence that the baby had been laying there, or the big Sasquatch, whatever, But they didn't leave any evidence at all. And then every day I would tap in, especially to that wisdom keeper and the parents. I think it was the parents, the mom and dad, to see how the baby was doing. And he was dodgy there for a while, for about a week. It was very dodgy. But they had everybody collecting vitamin C. And then one day I got, yes, he's fine, he's up, he's healthy, he's good. And I was like, phew. What a relief, right? So those type of communications, that's how they feel. And even though the one that I saw in the backyard was a physical creature running through the trees, it was daytime, I was right awake and everything. It's a different awareness field, like a different consciousness state when you're wide awake. But when you half asleep in the middle of the night, right? And it was always almost dreamy, because they do have the capacity to put you to sleep or to calm you down, right? And it's possible that even though the dad was very, very mad at me, and that aggression could have sent my body into a panic, I feel like the wisdom keeper was holding me in a state of extreme calmness, or I don't know. Either
a calm bubble.
I don't scare unless it's a snake, or a spider.
Right.
But other things, I see them as data, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember, it's like, but I was supported in that, I think, with the other one's calmness, right?
Right.
And the reason I wanted to tell this story is because I wanted to concentrate on the shaman, the wisdom keeper one, because it felt like she had human DNA in her, or genetic material in her. It felt like at some point in the past, one of her ancestors had either mated with a man or a woman and had created a lineage that was Sasquatch, but had that connection, so they could...
The connection points.
Yes, could communicate with the humans.
Right, because the modification has to do with the DNA, which is multidimensional, right?
Yes.
And the multidimensional change in the DNA to allow human and soul to merge, basically the soul encompass the body, whatever, that is modified, and that modification is genetic information transmitted from body to body. Mm-hmm. So in a sense, the Sasquatch are correct that they can catch a soul in a sense.
Yeah, and I think they do it on purpose. I think they do it on purpose. They choose a lineage.
Their connection. Yeah. Connectionable.
With the rest of their cousins. Yeah.
Right.
Which is how they see us. They see us as their cousins.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting.
So, one of the things that I've noticed with people who do connect with Sasquatch, and I've seen it many times, it's very similar to the romanticism of the native, right?
Right.
And it's almost like the person gives their power away completely to the native or to the Sasquatch, like they're wise beyond everything, and you know.
Right.
And that's not actually true. I have met another two, what I would call their wisdom keeper shamans in the past, and those two were male and they were really, really old, and they did not have any human genetics at all. They didn't have it.
Right.
But this lady one that we saw,
the one with the pouch?
Yeah, the one with the pouch, she did. She had something, not much, but she did have it. Yeah. I felt it.
Right.
And, but it felt like that, the connection. So, it's like, and there's a lot of tradition here, even in the reservation of, yeah, we used to trade with the Sasquatch. Your mom used to say, yeah, we used to trade with the Sasquatch. I've seen them, right?
Yeah.
And we used to trade with them, and when we said, well, what did you trade with them for? I said, medicine. We trade medicine. But I never found out whether it was the Sasquatch medicine or the macaw medicine.
Yeah,
you know?
I never.
But also there's another story of when your mom was a young woman and she was in the village with all of the other women and the aunties and the grandmas doing something. They were getting something ready, like a big meal or something, and all the children were outside in the street playing. And then they all came in really upset.
Yeah, I remember
right?
this.
Very upset. They came in and they said, what's wrong? What's happened? He says, well, the monkey boys got rough and we told them to be gentle, but they didn't, and they got rough, so we're not going to play with them anymore.
The monkey boys are too strong.
Yeah.
And they're mean.
They're mean and they're rough.
They're just playing too rough.
Yeah.
It's like Tiny or Anatolian Shepherd and Lucy or Akbash. When they play
rough.
They play rough, and you think, oh my God, what are they doing?
Yeah.
And they're smiling. They're like, this is the best
game
game
ever.
But from the outside looking in, you go like, gosh, you guys be nice to each other. They're like, what do you mean? We are being nice.
Yeah.
Quite funny.
So that's the energy of, they're not interested in people who want to find out if Sasquatch is real. They're not interested in that connection. Yeah. So one of the things that we did with the land was to go and say, okay, so the land is very willing. As far as I can see, the land is very willing. If we do take this on as a project, obviously there's going to be a lot of cleaning up to do from the human aspect of what's on the land.
Yeah.
And then if the Sasquatch are interested, they're going to leave signs.
Right. If the Sasquatch are interested in participating in the connection exercise with, selected frequency human.
Yeah.
In a location that, we can all agree on. Otherwise, it's a little bit harder to hold the right
space
power
or location
of human, the power of choosing, the power of doing. Our personal power for this process is assisted by having the land that is supporting it.
Yeah.
And the Sasquatch tribes that wants it. So if they want this, if they're interested, then
they can let us
we
know.
ask them to, at least leave some signs that we can recognize as them.
Mm-hmm. But also, I think this is only possible now at this degree of the conversation, right? Then this level of clarity from the conversation, because we're going through the split.
Right.
And they're very clear about the people who they will be willing to, if we figure out all the details, to participate with. And those are awake, high-frequency individuals. They're not like people who are there for ego agendas or, money agenda. No, I mean, money is not in that sense of money is evil, but to just profit. Exploit. That's right. That's the right one. Exploit the connection, right? Or even to prove everybody wrong, or
prove
fear.
Themselves right.
Yeah.
Any proof.
Yeah.
It's not about proof.
No, it's not about proof.
It's about connection.
Yeah.
Proof. Not proof. What were we talking about?
Proof of what?
I don't remember any.
Not to be there for proof, honey.
Not to. Oh yeah.
Of anything, or to prove anything. So,
the connection
yes, the
part
connection.
is not to be there, so I prove that I'm real or don't prove that I'm real. It's a different purpose of connection.
Yeah, it's more like
in other
friendship.
words, the why
Of the
is
person.
different, and who is different.
Yeah.
Who do I want to connect with? These ones. Why? Because X, Y, Z.
Mm-hmm.
So that was some of the connection information, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So these are all invitations.
Right.
Doesn't mean you have to do it. And it does mean that to do it, there will be steps and things and focus and attention and other processes, right? And it's not the only thing you're doing. It's the same as they are. Not the only thing that tribe is doing is connecting with humans on a piece of hostable property.
Right.
They all have other things they're doing too.
They are, yeah.
But this is an interesting thing, and they had interest too.
Yes.
When you put it that way, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Right?
And they're very receptive to invitation.
Yeah.
The other two wisdom keepers that I mentioned before, that was quite surprising. I didn't physically see them, but I felt them with every other sense. We were in the field behind the shaman shack, and we had a couple of visitors with us that day. And we decided to do a oneness connection exercise in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
And in the oneness connection exercise, you become one, and you invite. At the time, it's like invite the high frequency sentiency to become one, right? And we were all sitting in the field with our eyes closed, and suddenly I felt these two enormous Sasquatch coming up and sitting in the circle. And I felt them, I heard them, I sensed them, I smelled them, everything. And I thought, oh my God, I need to open my eyes, you know. I opened my eyes and I looked over and I couldn't see them with my physical eyes.
Darn it.
And that part shocked me.
They're there and they're not physically seeable.
Yeah. That part shocked me. And it was like, whoa, so unexpected. And they were so happy. They were so happy that they had received that invitation. That it was like, finally, you're back type energy, right?
Right.
You're finally back. We're so happy you're back, cousin. That type of energy.
Right, right. It's probably, yeah, because it's like where our experience of reality and the light dark stuff moves the frequency of beingness down through a certain threshold. At a certain threshold, then probably you're not compatible enough to see each other. Mm-hmm. And by all measures, you will be invisible to each other. Mm-hmm. You might exist, you might remember or have thoughts of, but they don't coexist in the same frequency band, so to speak. And we know we can only see in a certain frequency band of light. It's known, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's the same kind of a general.
I don't know about
sense?
like frequency as in are they a higher frequency than us or lower frequency than us?
Different frequency band.
It's just different, but also to remember that a lot of people have generated a type of godliness about the Sasquatch, and they're human. No, they're not human. They're human elementals, right?
Yeah.
And they do go to war, right? I mean, there is even a legend, not a legend actually, they say oral history, that one of the human tribes here up north here, northwest,
by Seattle.
Yeah, one of the human tribes decided to go to war with the Sasquatch because they weren't happy about something the Sasquatch.
Well, they took some of their girls, and they knew better. They went to go try and get their girls back.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. The Sasquatch took some of the girls, as it was traditional.
It happens
in the tribes around here.
Like,
I mean,
when that happens, you just don't.
But with the Sasquatch tribe, you just leave it alone. And they decided to go and get the girls back and go to war. And then that whole tribe was gone. They got all killed. Everybody in that tribe got killed. And that was a warning for all the other tribes, and all the other tribes heed that warning. Don't go to war with the Sasquatch, right? Because you're not going to win. It's not
in that playfield.
No, you're not going to win.
No.
So it's not like they're pacifists or, like gentle giants or anything like that. They have their kind of structure and limits. Also another story, even the story I told, I mean, the male Sasquatch was very angry and he was expressing that anger, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a very aggressive way. But I didn't feel threatened. I mean, I think he was trying to make me feel threatened. Don't you hurt my babies, right? My baby, something like that maybe.
Sure.
But I didn't actually feel threatened. I actually just told him to cool down, to chill, because I wanted to hear that lady what's going on, right?
Right.
There was another story. Oh yeah, so it feels to me like when the Europeans started coming here, there was a lot of treading on each other's toes. And there were some histories of that possible people got killed by Sasquatch in the 1700s or whatever, in this area. And it feels to me like the Sasquatch got understanding of what was happening and either made a deal with the human collective, the larger human collective, at some point about just stay out of our way, and we're going to be invisible to you, and that's going to stop all this nonsense, right? It just felt that way. And that's why it's very rare to see a Sasquatch or an evidence of a Sasquatch, because they decided to just avoid all that nonsense. And there's your dog. Maybe there's a Sasquatch in the back.
I wouldn't be surprised.
To avoid all that nonsense by staying quiet and invisible.
Right, just separating.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is the opposite of separating.
Exactly.
But it's connection with a certain energy of human.
Yes. The certain energy is people who are not into wanting to battle, war, capture, prove, trap, or anything like that in any way or form, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it feels to me.
And communicate, who can communicate, are trained in communicating.
Yeah. And we do have an experiential telepathy class, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Definitely have an experiential telepathy class.
Yes, that people can use to train themselves to how to communicate with the Sasquatch.
And other things, but Sasquatch also.
Yes.
So being skilled communicator means, yeah, you can speak their language.
Yeah.
So it's not very fun to have,
it would be fun just to see.
It's fun just to be there and see and experience each other, but it's also, you don't have room for mistakes if you have clear communication.
Right. Do you remember our very first communication as a couple we had with the Sasquatch? Do you remember it?
I don't know.
No, you remember?
I might if you jolt
You'll
me.
remember it right away. So we were in John's Land in a Jeep.
Yeah.
One of the first times we went to... Yeah. One of the first times we went there, and when we got back to the Jeep, there was this massive handprint on the windshield.
Yep, from the top.
And you tried to get
upside
to it.
Down.
You had to climb on top of the Jeep to get there, and then you put your hand over the print.
Yeah, and it was much bigger.
You would have to be
10 foot tall to put that handprint there.
I know.
That was
amazing.
That was funny.
And that was like a hello, right? Yeah. To me, that's how it was clear. It wasn't like maybe a handprint. It was very, very clear, muddy handprint on your windshield.
Totally.
You couldn't miss it.
And we had several interactions on that land, but we
did. It was very nice.
That land wasn't. It didn't work for hosting something like this.
Because it's very public.
It's just too public.
Yeah.
There wasn't any limit. Even if you bought it and owned it, you would have a hard time, or practically impossible time, keeping the traffic off of it because it's on a well-used trail.
Yeah.
A very determined people who will
people.
Use that trail. They're going to get there no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this land doesn't have that issue.
No. And it keeps itself really invisible.
Really well hidden.
Hidden.
So, that's what we're working on for connection this week.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of interesting and exciting, and related to our instant manifestation workshop and the connections that are happening there. These connections being fostered in high frequency.
Yeah, I think so.
Magic.
Yeah. Connection's good.
Connection's good. I think that speaks to what our class for Subscribe Star is going to be about.
Do you remember what it is?
Yeah. It has something to do with disturbances in the force.
Negative thoughts.
Negative
What
thoughts.
are they? How to interpret them correctly? Are they positive or negative in themselves? And what to do about them? And how they affect your relationships
How they
and
affect
connections.
relationships and connections. Negative thoughts. So if you're not aware or you're interested, now you're aware. And if you're interested, check it out.
Yeah. And that class is going to happen on the 18th of May.
I think that's like in a few days.
From when this recording is 4 days, but when this is published, I think
tomorrow. Well, 3 days, just a few days.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in that kind of connection,
go
check out the Subscribe Star. It's the easiest way to get to it, and that class will be there.
Mm-hmm. And the experiential telepathy class, it's at ineliabenz.com in the store. You can download it from there. Or if you are a Subscribe Star person or a Walk With Me person, it's in your library.
Yes. And we will talk about this land and this project more, perhaps later.
Yeah, the second hour.
Maybe in the second hour. Hey, for sure we'll be talking about it in the second hour.
That's 100%.
That's what it's about. Okay, see you there.
Bye.
Love you.
Love you, darling.